All right, welcome again to the Pieces of Systematic Review with Margaret Foster, Session 3. Thank you everyone for joining us. It is my pleasure once again to introduce Margaret Foster, who is the Associate Professor at Texas A&M University and Systematic Reviews Coordinator at the Medical Sciences Library with a joint position at the School of Public Health and the College of Medicine at the Texas A&M University Health Sciences Center. So I know we're very excited to have Margaret presenting on today's topic. I'm going to go ahead and let her take over. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning. So today we're going to talk about what happens after the search. Just a quick recap about what we've covered so far. First, we talked about how to determine if a research idea matches a systematic review. And then we talked about searching beyond the typical databases. And then so today we're going to talk about what the researchers will need to do after the search and how you can support them and what needs to be done. And then next month we're going to look into different software that might be useful, and I'm going to be focusing on the free software that's universally available. And then in June, we'll talk about other types of reviews because there are plenty out there that still need our support. And then in July, we'll end up with new developments in review methods, including living systematic reviews, text analysis, and other topics like that. And as you have questions, I hope you will type them in the chat box, and I will answer as many as I can as we go along. And then at the end of the session, we'll also have a Q&A as well. So here are the objectives for this session. And we're going to describe the evaluation, the risk of bias in the coding process, and talk about the different resources to support those. We're not going to have time to do a lot of practice today. Hopefully through your questions we can answer those, but one of the most important parts about this is as you feel more comfortable with systematic reviews is to start to practice these, and you may even pick a topic of your own in librarianship that you want to do a systematic review on. That's a really great way to learn about these steps. And then finally, we'll talk about the analysis and summarization step of reviews. And so this is the pieces process that I use that helps me to remember all the different steps in the review. And so far, we've covered the P and the I, the planning and the identifying. And then today we're going to talk about steps 3 through 6, which in different services, different services will choose to play different roles in these. Some services choose to play a role in all the steps. Some focus mostly on 1 and 2, and some only do step 2. So there's all different ways of designing your service, and definitely most of us feel very comfortable with step 2. Okay, so after they have conducted the searches and started retrieving citations, they'll need to evaluate what they have, and this is going to involve screening by the title and abstract, selecting by full text, sorting the citations into studies, which we'll talk a little bit about what that means in just a minute, and then assessing the risk of bias, and then assessing the overall risk of bias from the group of studies they've collected. So we're going to go through each of those one at a time. So screening by title and abstract, when you're doing this, there's a series of questions that you'll need to answer and describe in the method section. So the first thing is, what is the screening criteria? What are you looking for when you're looking at the title and abstracts? And one thing to keep in mind, which I put here into this blue box, is that when you're screening by title and abstract, you're looking for reasons to kick it out, not reasons to keep it. What this means is let's say you're doing, you're looking for research that has been done on children, but when you're reading the abstract, you see they're talking about adults, then it's clear that you should kick that out. But if you read it and you weren't sure what the population was, you wouldn't kick it out at that point. You would want to let it go forward to full text screening when you will look to make sure of what the population is. The next step is to think about what labels are you going to use, and we'll get into that on the next slide. And you will need to decide, do you want to label reasons that you kicked it out at this point? PRISMA does not require that you do that, but I will see many publications and many groups choose to do that at this point. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Another question is, who are going to be the screeners? How many are there? And how are you going to divide the citations? Many standards call for at least 2 independent screeners on each citation to decide if it's going to be included or not. And there's been a little bit of research done looking at who are the best screeners, and one thing that's interesting is they have noted that graduate students or those who aren't highly knowledgeable about a certain area will screen faster than the experts, and they found that the reason was the experts got really interested in all the different articles as they were reading them and weren't always applying the screening criteria they needed to because they were influenced by the authors. So that was interesting. In dividing the citations, we'll divide them across the board that everybody gets the same amount. Sometimes one person will take on less. So there's all different ways that groups will divide it. There's different software that's out there for dividing. Some people will just use Excel. Some people use EndNote or RefWorks. My favorite right now is Rayon, which I'll be demonstrating next month. But whatever they choose to use, they may need to have some additional training on that software and get comfortable with it. And lastly, they need to decide how they're going to settle disagreements. Sometimes that's done by consensus within the group, and then sometimes they will choose 1, maybe 2 people who are like the final deciders. So if there's a disagreement, then that person decides. There's no right or wrong with that. It's just that they need to describe it in the methods. Once they come up with how are they going to screen, then they really need to test the methods. And I like to pick maybe 5, 10 citations for the group to start with, so that they can test and see how it's going. And talk about any disagreements, and then they might need to change their criteria or have a discussion, and then do 10 more, and do that for a couple of times and see how it's going. And then once that's going well, then divide up the articles and go from there. And then along the way during the screening process, they may need to be checking to see that things are going well, a little bit of quality assurance there. So on this slide, I put some possible categories that groups may decide to divide the citations into, and definitely you have the 2 groups of relevant and not relevant. But even in the relevant, they may find things that aren't really studies. They would be really good for background, though, such as a policy paper, an expert opinion paper, something like that. They also may see things in there that are reviews or highly related articles that they'll want to later on look at those citations to see if they have any potential studies. And then there'll be, of course, the potential studies. And I put an asterisk on here referring to they may want to further label those citations marked as non-relevant with the reasons that they're kicked out. Excuse me, I usually use the criteria that I started with the eligibility criteria, and I will number those, and we'll talk about that in a following slide about how I do that. Has anybody participated in this process? And how did you, what software did you use? So we're kind of all over the board here. It's all the different ones, a lot of the different ones that I mentioned. And how comfortable were you with screening if you didn't feel comfortable with the subject, or what role did you play in that? So you're getting feedback from the PI. You did a reliability test. Noise only. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of show those who haven't done screening before that there are lots of different ways that as librarians we could participate in screening. Many times I am just the project manager of it, so I'm setting up the software, uploading the articles, guiding them through what needs to be done. I don't usually have the time to screen them myself. Sometimes they will ask me to, and sometimes I don't feel comfortable with their topic that I could do a great job. But sometimes I will do work on, as one person said here, on the noise. So articles which are clearly, I know that will not be worth their time to look at, I can kick those out. So there's a question about the CAPA score. I actually don't use the CAPA score for inter-rater reliability because when you're doing when you're trying to do the calculations on inter-rater reliability, most of the time you have a very high level of agreement when you're doing screening, and CAPA has a problem when you're doing that. CAPA works better when there's less agreement. So the better score or tool to use is called GWETS. And there has been some literature on GWETS CAPA, and I'd be happy if later you send me an email to tell you all about that. I'm working on a project right now where we had a very high level of agreement, but every time I was doing the CAPA, I kept getting these crazy numbers, which we had like between 90% to 98% agreement on different scores, and the CAPA was saying that we didn't agree at all. So once I did the GWETS, it corrected for that. And there's been literature out there saying and explaining why there's that difference. So it's called GWETS CAPA, and that's a person's name. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing that with everybody. I was typing it into the chat box, but I wasn't sharing with everybody. Let me fix my default here. And I'll type that again. There we go. Now everybody should be able to see that. Sorry about that. Okay, those are really great questions. Okay, so then when selecting by full text, you'll need to answer the same questions as before. And a lot of times people will use similar methods, but sometimes they don't, depending on how many students they have or how the research group is working. And so you'll need to describe that and test those methods. And then here, this is where I'm describing how I label things. So usually before you're even searching, you're going and want to do this is list out the eligibility criteria, and then usually what I do is I'll number those, and then I'll use those numbers when I write down my exclusion criteria. So I'll write like no 1. Now that I've started using Rayon, and you're able to add your own label in, so I haven't had to resort to simple numbers. It really helped in the beginning, though, when I didn't have something like that to work with, so maybe it's not as important anymore. The important thing, though, is that the group agree on how they're going to label things, and depending on what you're using, sometimes I will say, you can get an index card or something and put it up somewhere. And then having weekly meetings, I think, as somebody said on there, to talk about any issues, I think that's really helpful, especially when you're in the thousands, is to have that conversation about how it's going, because you wouldn't want to just see all the problems at the end. So I talked a little bit earlier about sorting the study, sorting this relevant articles into studies. What I meant by that is sometimes it's not always one study equals one citation. Sometimes one study is described or reported in multiple citations. And so for systematic reviews, of course, we're really doing a study of studies, so it's the study that we're interested in, and you wouldn't want to over-represent any one study. Occasionally, you will have more than one study in one citation, and so you'll have to take those citations, divide them into studies, and then that's what you're going to work with from now on. If you have multiple study types, you'll also want to divide them by study type. And then the next step will be assessing for the risk of bias. Sometimes groups will decide that if a study does not match certain quality criteria, that it will be kicked out. So sometimes this is going to be another level in the selection process. And this also should be done by at least 2 independent evaluators. You may use different software for this. You've got to talk about how disagreements are settled. I use Qualtrics, which is an online survey tool right now to help to do this, especially when I have bigger groups. And then usually we'll pick 1 or 2 articles, have everybody in the group try out those methods, see how it's going, answer any questions, because sometimes this is the first time they've applied a certain criteria. So let's talk about how do you pick what checklist or what criteria to use for the risk of bias. This is one example here, and so this is Cochrane's list. And of course, most Cochrane reviews are only looking for randomized control trials. This is a screenshot here of the Qualtrics form that I set up. So here they would label whether for random sequence generation, which is the first criteria on here, is that low risk, high risk, or unclear risk. One very nice thing that Cochrane has done is that it will say low risk of bias, and then it lists out what does it mean to have low risk of bias for criteria 1. What does it mean to have high risk? And so they have very clear instructions for that. So what I did when I developed this as a survey, I put in a link to that explanation instead of having it all in here, because it would have made the survey very long. So we have a quick question here. Do you assess the risk of bias after you've done? I wouldn't. So, so your question is, when do I do this part? So I don't start looking at the risk of bias until after I've sorted them, because I wouldn't want to have to go through all of this if it wasn't, if it didn't match at least all of my other eligibility criteria. And I would only want to do it when I'm looking at the full text. In fact, sometimes you're trying to do this and you will see, oh, they didn't describe this well or they didn't do this well. Some groups will go ahead and reach out and try to write to the authors of that study and ask them questions to try and figure out, okay, did you do this and what did you do? And some groups will just say, no, we're going to kick it out because they did not report it well. So on the screen, I describe in here the sections in the Cochrane Handbook that refer to these different processes. And there's also a tool that recently came out. It's a risk of bias tool for non-randomized studies. So, so Cochrane does offer some guidance for that. But there are also other groups out there with their own checklists. I really like Joanna Briggs' list because they cover lots of different types of studies. And so I provided the link there. And so I have done a couple of systematic reviews where all we had to work with were case reports and case series. And so it was nice to have at least some group to point to for that. So that's another example of some checklists that are out there. And on this list, I provide even more. Some groups will go ahead and create their own. They don't necessarily, so like for the USDA one, this one is very limited to trials or some observational studies. What Works Clearinghouse, they're focused just on education interventional studies, so they don't talk about any other types. But we're starting to see more and more of these checklists coming out. One issue is that not all of these have been validated, that continues to be a problem. However, when a group is looking for, they would really like to have a checklist that's at least recognized by some group, I will go and try and find one that matches their topic the best that I can. So this one from the USDA, I just found a couple of weeks ago when I was working on a review that was for somebody in nutrition that I had never known about. So they will come up from time to time, and I will always fall back onto either Cochrane or Joanna Briggs if I can't find anything that's specific to their topic area. Does anybody know of any other ones that you have used that maybe I haven't mentioned? Okay, so one thing with CASP is very specific in it's the way that they list it. It's an application. So does this apply to my patient? So it's written from a little bit different standpoint, but it does have many of the same criteria that we will see on many of the other checklists. It's just written from a different point of view, and I've used those many times with the medical students. But I hadn't heard of this QUIPS one, so that's interesting. Thank you for that. Okay. I always learn something new when I do this. Oh, and Yimin provided a link about that Cochrane has on training for risk of bias. And so Cochrane has lots of great training tools on that. I don't do very many systematic reviews where it's just randomized control trials in clinical medicine. I would be great if I did because there are so many great training for that. So usually I'm trying to find something else, but that's a great resource. So after looking at all of this, one thing that they're going to need to write up in the results is going to be the overall quality of the evidence here. And so if overall there's a low probability of bias, there's if we're talking about intervention studies, there's a large magnitude of effect, then overall it's going to increase our feeling that, yes, this is the right direction and the quality is great. Things that might bring down the quality would be if it was very indirect, is this working or not? If it was imprecise or there was too much heterogeneity, or if any one of those categories had a really high probability of bias across all of them, and of course if we're missing things, so publication bias. So this is an example of a summary table that you may see. This is from Cochrane, and so down the side we see the different articles, and then across the top you see those 7 criteria for randomized control trials that they're looking at. And then green means it's great, red means high probability of bias, and then yellow means it was unclear. And then down at the bottom you can see that it's kind of showing across, summarizing it. Okay, so somebody, it's not happening to me that that the audio is coming over. Okay, so we can see then, you can look over and say, okay, for most of the data is complete, so we don't see a high level of incomplete data, but maybe there was an issue with allocation of concealment or masking here, the blinding it says. Because you see that there's just a little bit of green, a lot of yellow, and then some red, and then some have a lot more red. So you give this narrative summary. One thing that Cochrane suggests getting away from is summarizing by the risk of bias by giving articles a score. So, you know, you have 7 items here, so you could go through and score each 1 through 7. And their suggestion is, the problem with that is that some of these criteria are kind of critical. And that if you did that one, did not do very well on that one criteria, that maybe the whole study is in question. That is something that Cochrane has suggested. Now you will see many other scales where they will do, they will add up things and they will give an average score and things like that. This is more of what Cochrane is leaning towards now and suggested. So Kate was asking, is the table usually included in the article itself? I think it depends. I see many articles published where they actually give you the table, but I also see some in the appendix. So it's really, I think, dependent on the journal that you're publishing in. I've also seen all different kinds of symbols. I think on this one, if it wasn't in color, it might be harder to read. So sometimes I see check marks and minuses and question marks. I've seen all different ways of trying to represent this. So grade is Cochrane's way of combining things together. The grade working group has a great page which provides publications and discussions about grade. There's software which is free to download, and lots of training on that. So we won't have time to talk about that, but I just wanted to put that out there. And everything that I've talked about so far, I'll show you the link at the end of today. I have been putting together onto a Google Sites page that I created for this webinar series, where you can see links and citations that I've used. So the next part of this is now they finally have what they started off with to find. They have their studies, they've appraised them and looked at them, and now they want to start collecting the data. Some people will do the appraisal and the collection at the same time, so maybe even on the same form. And so I've done that many times where they would do the appraisal and then say, are you going to kick it out, yes or no? And then if they're going to keep it, then go ahead and start coding it right then so that they're not having to go through the articles multiple times. Coding data has lots of different terms. Sometimes people call it data abstraction, data extraction, lots of different terms. The main idea is that for each study, they need to create a worksheet that they're going to fill out for each one. And that's kind of the easiest way that has worked in describing this to researchers. They will probably need to have some area on that form that they could write in other related studies to it, or citations. I meant to say citations, sorry, that other information was pulled from or something like that. So let's talk about the steps. So the first thing is I usually will just write out what data items are they interested in. And this will be an exercise that I have them do. I say, just start jotting down what your items are that you're looking for. And then after we have that list, we'll start thinking about each one in turn and what would be the best way to collect that information. So let's say that setting was something that they were interested in. So then you would want to know, well, do we know the categories of the settings right now? Is that going to be an open field? I tend to lean towards having categories whenever I think we can come up with at least a few, as it's going to really help in the end when you're trying to put things all together. Of course, if you have 20 or less articles, those kinds of things aren't as crucial because you have a lot less to work with. But once you get up into the 30s and 40s and beyond, it really helps to have a lot of the data categorized as much as you can. I will always put an other box in there where the author or the coder, sorry, can write in some text. Because you never want them to come to a question and then have a piece of information and no place to put it. And you'll learn more about how is it working once you select the software and develop that tool and start testing it. So usually I will say, okay, let's pick one kind of standard study that we found and let's test. Everybody fills out the coding form with that. And then I'll make any changes to say, and then I'll test one more. And we do that until we feel very comfortable. And so I will help them through the process. Usually I will give them suggestions as we go along. Sometimes I will create the form. We will create it together sometimes. And then I'm kind of the monitor saying how it's going, how many have been completed, that kind of a thing. And just as we had to do for screening and quality appraisal, it's really good to have at least 2 coders on these and to talk about disagreements. So how do you decide what characteristics to look for? So the Cochrane Handbook provides a list of items that they require, and starting with, of course, what is the source, so that you've got to label what article is this. If I'm doing this in Qualtrics, usually I will use some kind of unique identifier for each study so that we all agree on which one we're talking about, so they don't have to type in all the information. It's really good to really confirm the eligibility, and if you were doing the steps as I've laid them out, then you may be really sure at this point that you want to include it. But some groups are a little bit more open, and they're letting things in, and then they get to this point, and it's really good to truly decide right then if it's going to be included. So they add some questions at the beginning. Then the next category will be the method. So what is the study design? Sometimes people have really limited down to just randomized controlled trials, but even within that, there are lots of different types of randomized controlled trials. And then so you can kind of see how it goes through each of these different areas of the study. And depending on what you're looking at, you may need even more than what's here. And this is kind of a starting point. Now, this list is just for intervention studies. We definitely can take some things away from this for other types of studies. But every systematic review is unique and should have its own list of characteristics. For example, I did one where I was only looking at the methods of the studies I was looking at. So I did not record anything of their outcomes or results. I was only interested in how they were conducting things. So I looked at over 60 studies, and I had over 100 questions just on their methods. So it's just something to keep in mind. So some other examples that are out there, the community guide, which is a online repository from a CDC group that looks at reviews of community-wide public health interventions. They are very generous in providing all of their methods, including their coding sheet, which is kind of long and it might be a little bit daunting. What's really nice about it is that it has really detailed instructions about how to fill out this form, and I have found it to be really useful for those in health promotion especially to look at, but it's another example that you could point to as to what they can look like. So sometimes people choose lots of different types of tools. Pencil and paper work great. There, of course, lots of people use spreadsheets or database software like Access, and so there's all different types of software. And yes, next month I will show Qualtrics. Did I put the link to the community guide? I might not have. I will grab that link for you real quick. Oh, I think I did. Here on this slide, I have a link to their methodology page, and if you just scroll down, you will see a link directly to their form. It's right off of that methods page, so hopefully that helps. Okay. So we'll go into lots of different software next month. I might talk a little bit about some of the software that you pay for as well, but I will focus my demonstrations on things that are free that many people would have access to. So the next step, once they've coded these articles, is then to combine that data together. One thing that's very useful when trying to figure out how to do this, especially when thinking about the tables, would be to look at those previous reviews on the topic and see what kind of evidence tables did they provide. That's going to give you a lot of insight into how did they code the articles, because that's the output from the coding. Sometimes it's not really straightforward as to what tables would look best. We've all seen those reviews where they have one table that might take up like 8 pages or something like that with all of the population and things like that. And those tables are important because we do need to know all the relevant information about the studies. But what I encourage the authors to do as well is to pick those characteristics of the studies that are most important and are answering their questions that they really want to highlight, and make that its own table so that the reader's more easily able to see what they're trying to show. So sometimes this is a thing that I work with a lot and kind of rearrange the tables and see how can we see this the best and really highlight what you're trying to show. We already talked about that we need to provide the risk of bias table. There may be themes, so there's all different ways of doing this, and maybe there will also be a statistical synthesis, a meta-analysis. And next month, I'll talk a little bit about some of the software that's available out there to support that. I only know enough to get into trouble, the tables. Will you get a transcript? So this is being recorded, and I think there's also so I think you might be able to read down the bottom. I don't know about the transcript. I'll let Sarah answer that. Okay. So step 5 is explaining all of the results. And the way I usually think about this is was what we would typically see in the discussion area. When I was first starting to write articles, I would always get to the discussion area and I would wonder, what would they want me to put here? Because I've already told you everything in the results section. And I forgot to highlight it on here, but this list is from an article, a very short one-page article that was published in BMJ many years ago called How to Write a Discussion, and it's a nice little one-page article that basically comes down to these 4 bullet points here. So you want to say, what are the 3 to 5 most important findings here? And the most important thing is to answer the question that you started off the review from. And it sounds funny, but you will find that you get to the end and you forgot what you were trying to answer. The next part is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the study? And one part as a librarian that you can play in that is talking about the potential for publication bias. So if they didn't do a meta-analysis, they can't do the funnel plot, which is that nice little graphic showing, are we missing studies? So many times you have to do it narratively. And this would be your chance if they said, oh, we only want to include English, or we only want to do peer-reviewed, which of course we discourage them from, but they still want it. Then you could have a sentence or 2 in there saying what you might have missed. It's also important for them to compare what they found in their strengths and weaknesses in the other reviews that have come before them, and then of course those implications for practitioners and policymakers. So those are the 4 things that I encourage them to write about. And ever since I started following this kind of outline for discussion, it's made my life easier. So hopefully you get something out of that as well. So when writing up this summary, it's important to think about what is the output. So if they've been going through these steps in order to flush out what they're going to do for a protocol, so they haven't been finishing everything, they've just been trying to do enough so that they can write out their methods, there are guides of how to write a protocol. If it's for a poster or presentation, Prisma has a great guideline on what to include in an abstract. And so I will point people to that to say this is what you want to make sure you mention in your presentation or put on your poster. If it's a journal article, I will want to know what journal are we thinking about. I'll pull up systematic reviews that have been published in there. We'll look to see what level of detail do they require. And it's not that it's going to change the quality of what I'm trying to do, but it lets us know what the standard is for that journal. Then, of course, many times the students that I'm working with, this is for part of their thesis or dissertation, so then we'll have to know what it's going to look like in there. So I have a few more slides here, some tips here. One of my favorite tools when I'm trying to figure out what journal should I publish in is Jane. Has anybody ever used Jane before? It's been out for a while, so I'm sure many of you have. I find it to be really useful. I didn't put a screenshot in here, but I could probably kind of summarize it for you. So basically, you can go in there, you can put in a couple of keywords, you can paste in perhaps the title of the systematic review or even an abstract, and it will make a suggestion as to some potential journals to consider. It is limited down to kind of biomedical scientific kinds of journals, so it might not apply to all disciplines well. But I found it really useful when people ask me that question, and I'm like, I don't know your area good enough to tell you what journal to publish in. So it's really nice, so you can take a look at that. The other thing that they do in there that's really nice is they will have a link that says, here's why this journal was brought up, and it will show you related articles that it saw in that journal. So it's a nice way to see some other, hopefully, reviews in journals that might be relevant for the topic, and that's something useful to share with the research group. Another tool when you get to this point is, I listed here, it's on this webpage, prisma.the-TA-collaborative. And what's nice about this is it's a way to generate that flow chart and have it in all these different formats. I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes I will try and get published in a journal I'm not used to, and they will have some weird requirement that all the figures have to be formatted a certain way. And when it comes down to the Prisma one, I'm like, oh, I don't know how to make like the vector one or something like that. And so this flow chart can give it to you, has lots of different options for the output. And so you might check that out if you run into that issue. I found that to be really useful. Okay, so now I can answer any more questions that you have. I have put up my email and also the link to the Google Sites page that I talked about, which has links to many of the things that tools and articles that I talked about today. So I'm ready to answer any more questions that you have.
Thanks for another great presentation, Margaret. We do have a couple minutes left here at the end for anyone who has questions. We will also be checking questions from our social media if you use #PiecesQA. And Debbie has also put a link to Margaret's book, which has been released and is now available on Amazon. So if you don't already have a copy, you can check it out there. Looks like Kim has a question, as well as Dee Dee. Margaret, if you want to go ahead and answer those.
Let's see, did I miss Tim's? I didn't see a question.
Oh, sorry, Kimberly, sorry.
Oh, okay. So she was giving us another resource on where to publish, so I'll have to check out that link. Dee Dee was asking, is the book digital? Yes, you can get it on Kindle now. I think I saw that. And so I'm sure it's available in other ways as well. I haven't really explored if it's available. I thought I saw on NetLibrary and maybe a couple of other of the ebook vendors. I would need to go and explore more. Am I going to be presenting at MLA? Oh my goodness, I should have put up a slide. I was going to talk about that next time. I will be. We're going to be doing a session with several librarians, including Susan Fowler, on expert searching. And so what they're going to kind of do is like have two librarians be given a topic, and they'll be developing a search live so that everybody can see how two different librarians approach a systematic review search, and then we'll talk about it. I'm also teaching a workshop. It's an introduction to systematic reviews with Susan. I think that's on the Friday of MLA. And we're also running two SIG meetings. So one is going to be our open systematic review SIG meeting. Anybody is welcome. The other one is also open, but it is going to be focused on the competencies for librarians involved in systematic reviews and the research and what we're trying to do with that. I'll have a slide next time that's all about MLA and what we're doing. I'm sorry I didn't include it there. I didn't think about that. Oh, thank you, Tracy. That's nice. So if I missed any questions, there's some that are a little bit more in depth here. I'll be going back through these. Let's see. Okay, well, I can see if I can try and tackle this one right now. For calibrating a set of articles for screening, how many do I use? So it's really dependent on how comfortable they are. Usually for any kind of, the longer they have to work with something, the fewer I'll use. So for risk of bias and coding, I'm like 1 or 2 articles to calibrate. For screening, I think 10 to 20 is fine. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Kimberly. Yes, the brave librarians who are doing the live search. It's going to be interesting. I'm also going to do it again at EA Hill, which is the European version of MLA, so the following month. So that will be interesting. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I know that they will have a couple of questions for you before we go. And then we're probably going to have at least one more question and answer session before this series ends.
Yes,
we might do it in
Thank
June,
you.
maybe. I've got a few things to do before then.
We could stick around for just a few more minutes. I do have final questions. We will plan on probably having another Q&A. So if your question was not answered today, or if you have another question you think of, again, you can post it on social media using #PiecesQA. You can send it to our office email. We'll go ahead and collect those for the next Q&A session. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you again, Margaret, for another wonderful session.
Thank you. I always learn so much, and I thank everybody for their suggestions. And I'm going to be going back through here and getting your resources. And so I'll be quiet now until next time. Thank you.